All right. Big shout out to today's show sponsor, Squad QL, the roster management assistant you need to help you win your league here in 2018. Squad QL gives you an advantage by directly connecting to any league on Yahoo, ESPN, or CBS. Pulls in your roster, league settings, and scoring system, provide recommendations on waiver moves, trades, and even help you set your starting lineup week to week. Head to squadql.com to download the all-in-one fantasy football manager app. And SquadQL is also brought to you by the creators of RotoQL, the leading daily fantasy lineup optimizer trusted by 100,000 DFS players worldwide, available at rotoql.com. Let's start this craziness. And welcome back to Beer Fuel Fantasy Football. And if you're watching live on YouTube right now, things look a little bit different. We have a story to tell. We are Beer Fuel Fantasy Football. To my right is Christopher Hopper.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
At Hot BFF with 2 P's.
At Hot BFF with 2 P's. Sorry, YouTube was being all weird. So if there's any technical difficulties or anything like that, we have a reason and we have stories. There's a reason we're on Thursday. There are reasons for a lot of things right now.
Mostly due to a tree.
Yeah. So the reason that, and I apologize if there's buffering or anything like that. This is not our normal setup. So the reason we are here on Thursday is because we could not record last night because there was a tree that went down behind my house, which is where we normally record, and it wiped out a couple power poles. It wiped out electricity. It wiped out internet. And even though electricity was restored late last night, internet has still not been restored. AT&T is supposed to be out later tonight for that, but there is another reason that we're here also. So we will not be returning to that regular studio.
Yep, that studio is gone. Though this will not be the normal recording place. This is a temporary
This
spot.
is a transition spot. We weren't planning to make this move until we were going to do one more show in the regular studio on Friday and then make the move next week. But what is going on is that I have, for my normal real life job, accepted a promotion which will cause me to relocate to St. Louis. Now, what does that mean for the show? Well, not much, actually. It means that we're still going to bring you the same content that we bring you Monday, Wednesday, Friday during the NFL season, regular off-season schedule, same content. You might get more beer reviews if we run into situations where we can't coordinate beer because of distribution schedules. You'll get a wider selection of beer because I'll be able to provide these guys with things from further down south. More beer, always a good thing. And YouTube will change up a little bit. You'll obviously get some split screen there because I won't be in the same location. But other than that, it'll pretty much be the same. So,
and the one advantage is with us not having to travel to Hoppers, we may be able to get Dan through entire episodes on Monday and Wednesday too. So that is another slight potential perk here.
Yep. We'll be able to go a little bit earlier. So if you appreciate Dan or you like Dan, that's a perk. So,
all right. So
we like Dan.
So Dan, who can't join us today because we had to record on Thursday, he is working tonight. He is at ThurryBFF with 2 Fs on Twitter. I am at Nick Sparts. So hopefully this new setup doesn't throw everyone too much. Hopefully we don't bleed subscribers like crazy. And hopefully you guys handle the new studio transition well, but it should stay pretty close to the same.
Yeah, it should be. And again, if there's any buffering, we apologize for that. This was something we threw together because we had to get an episode out.
All right. So beyond all that, the show itself can be found at BeerFueledFF. That is Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped. If you want to watch the live show and see us in the new digs, go ahead and subscribe at Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube.
We have a question already.
What is the question?
Is that LaCroix on top of the fridge?
It is LaCroix on top of the fridge. That is from Mama Sparts.
Nice.
So we're going to be recording approximately 5:45 Monday, Wednesday, Friday when normal conditions allow. This was not normal conditions, so do keep an eye out for that. 10:30 in the mornings on Sundays, we'll be doing YouTube Live, which will be actually here this upcoming Sunday because the studio will be moved at that point.
Yep. We weren't going to move it till either way, that was going to be here on Sunday, but we'll be here tomorrow now too.
Yeah, the announcement was supposed to be Sunday,
right?
So it got moved up 72 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
During weekday shields, we'll do our best to answer your questions before you, and then Sunday morning, bring all your questions because that's literally all we're here for, is just to answer you guys' questions you have about your lineups. So on today's episode, though, we're going to go try to do this a little quicker. We're dropping our Wednesday Lounge segment because we lost Dan, and we're just trying to get through this before this Thursday night kickoff. So we're just going to talk start, sits, news, and what to expect in Thursday night's game here.
Yep.
So before we do all that, though, let's hit a beer preview. And on today's episode from Capital Brewing, we have Autumnal Fire. Second time on the show for Capital Brewing. They're based out of Middleton, Wisconsin. And Autumnal Fire is a Doppelbock, which we have very few of, so I'm really stoked for that. Comes in at 7.8%. It's supposed to have spices and kind of an autumnal feel to it. Initial review, yes, it does. And we'll give you a full review of that once we're through the starts of the week.
News.
All right, they've already confirmed Leonard Fournette is out for Week 5 against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Fire up for TJ Yeldon's.
Yeah, Yeldon, borderline RB1 for me this week.
He is right on the cusp for me, yes.
Speaking Monday, Browns coach Hugh Jackson said Nick Chubb has to get some.
I don't know what that means. I don't trust Hugh Jackson.
I'm hoping carries, but who knows?
I will see it when I believe it.
Also speaking Monday, Browns coach Hugh Jackson said Antonio Callaway's playing time could be dialed back. So that means he'll play 100% of snaps in week 5.
Right. I will see it when I believe it.
For tonight's game, if they're still in your lineup right now with 40 minutes to go before kickoff, get T.Y. Hilton and Jack Doyle out of your lineup. They are both out.
Yep. And I just heard just in the chat, got T.Y. and Evans as my wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 this week.
Rip.
So it's starting Cole and Lockett. Yeah, that's going to be rough.
I hope your running backs are stacked because that's the only way you're pulling this one out.
I don't know who to like with. I mean, with the Colts, it's Nyheim Hines and Eric Ebron.
Yeah, and then if you're desperate, one of the other
one of the others, but who knows which one?
Probably Grant, then Rodgers, and then Pascal. Last. And then the Rams signed kicker Cairo Santos, and they cut Sam Ficken. So do not rely on Sam Ficken any longer.
Also, as a Bears fan from last year, don't rely on Cairo Santos.
He also can't stay healthy. Let's get into some guys who did not practice Thursday. Dalvin Cook, hamstring, did not practice. He's looking questionable at best for the Sunday matchup here against the Eagles, which is already a bad one.
Yep. More on him later.
Alex Collins was downgraded to did not practice in Thursday's practice. Coaches said this was precautionary, but it's something to be aware of. If he suddenly didn't practice on a Thursday, it's not a good sign.
Yeah, it's usually not just precautionary. So just if he misses, fire up Javorius Allen's, and maybe not a bad idea to knock a few buck anyway.
Yeah, I may fire up Buck Allen anyway. Giovanni Bernard didn't practice Thursday when it looks like Mixon's coming back, so Mixon may be coming back to a full workload. I
hope so. And if he does, that's fantastic, because whoever starts there, I like them as a back-end RB1 in the same vein as I like TJ Yeldon.
And then Corey Clement and Darren Sproles are not practicing right now.
All right.
So it's going to be just the J.H.
Just the J.H.
Smallwood show again.
With a broken back. Colton once says he's an Alvin Kamara owner. Who to flex in PPR? Ingram, Carrion, or Adrian Peterson?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter that you're a Kamara owner. Just start the best player. So is Peterson, Ingram, or who?
Carrion Johnson.
I'm not buying that hype train quite yet.
I'm not buying the volume, especially because Patricia says he's fine with his carries.
I'm going Ingram.
Yeah, I would go Ingram
also. Go
with
the stack.
I like it. Yes, go with the stack. That works out well. I also just like his matchup a little bit more than AP's this week, even though AP's isn't bad.
All right. For the Green Bay Packers, Geronimo Allison, Devontae Adams, and Randall Cobb are all not practicing, all for different reasons. Calf, hamstring, and concussion.
All right, so MVS, ESB, and CSI. I don't know who CSI is, but I felt like I needed more initials.
And then I'm blanking. Who's the other? It was Brown, Scamping, and
Jamon Moore.
Moore, that was it.
It's going to be all rookies.
Yep, all rookies all the time. Of the three, Adams looks like the most likely to play, but all three are missed practice today. And last one is no Thursday update on this one, but Goodwin did not practice yesterday, so keep an eye on him, though I wouldn't want to rely on him anyway.
Ebron or Njoku, full PPR.
Ebron. Volume.
Yep, definitely volume.
He's gotten 10 targets in both or more in both the games that they missed, but we'll get to that when we do the
Thursday. And T.Y. Hilton's not there either.
All right, let's hit our starts and sits of the week.
I'm not used to this early in an episode. It's weird.
We dropped an entire segment.
I know we did.
Start 'em, sit 'em.
So we do have Dan's starts and sits as well, so he got them in for you guys. So, and he even gave us notes to help us out. But I will say something that really annoys me about Dan's notes is Dan does not know how to use apostrophes. If you ever look at any contraction in his notes, he has 0 apostrophes in any of them.
I'm English. It's Dan.
All right. Well, Hopper, kick us off with your start of the week at quarterback.
All right. My first start of the week at quarterback is going to feel really gross, but I promise you it's not. It is Joe. I'm elite Flacco.
He's been solid this year.
And he's actually playing really solidly this year. Cleveland might be only 17th in points led to quarterbacks, but that's inflated by Darnold's 169 and nothing dud, or deflated in this case. QB's not named Darnold. They're averaging 338 yards a game passing and have tossed 7 touchdowns over those 3 weeks. Flacco, meanwhile, only has 1 game with a pick. He's thrown 2 or more touchdowns and for 250 or more yards, and scored 24 or more fantasy points in 3 or 4 of his games this year. And he's finished as a QB 11 twice this season and then once as a QB 13. He's only had 1 week where he's kind of been just normal Joe Flacco. It's a decent matchup. The Browns offense has been good enough to where they probably won't be able to just settle into running the football, and they're missing Terrence Mitchell.
Yep, I like Flacco a lot this week. He is especially in 2 QB leagues, I would not even hesitate to start him. He's probably not quite high enough for me to start in 1 QB leagues in most situations.
Another question from Colton. What's your second favorite fantasy football podcast or some you listen to? So we definitely started out with Fantasy Footballers.
Yeah.
That was our influence. That's the kind of the big one. The Superflex Show are some friends of ours, and we really like the work that they do. I'm sure you got a couple also.
It's kind of a nostalgia thing for me just because it's from Minneapolis, but I'm a big fan of Fantasy Football Weekly. It's only once a week. It's about 2 hours, and they run through all the matchups. Big fan of Paul Charchian. And then the other one I like that's newer, I just started this spring, but Fantasy Red Shirts is an excellent podcast.
Yeah, I've heard good things about them also. I'll be honest, I don't listen to a lot of fantasy football pods.
Now that we're in season, 0. None.
It's just,
not even our own.
It's such an overload with our own. In the off season, I definitely will. But in season, it's such an overload. I like to hear other people's takes, so I will check them out on occasion. But most of the time, I just need a break. Yeah. So, I'm a big Spitballers, which is the Fantasy Footballers' other podcast or comedy show, and I'm a big Pat McAfee and his show, and then his Heartland Radio show.
All right. Dan's start of the week is Phillip Rivers, which, I mean, at this point, you should just be starting Phillip Rivers most of the time. He's QB7 on the season, averaging 22.6 points a game in normal touchdown scoring leagues. I assume he means 4-point by that. He's currently sitting at 11 touchdowns, 2 picks on the season, multiple touchdowns in each game, so that's a minimum of 3 touchdowns in 3 of those games. Raiders are allowing 8.2 yards an attempt. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that is terrible. So lots of chances for big plays. He's only gotten 5 sacks on the season so far for the Raiders defense, so Rivers should have a clean pocket in this one.
I like Phillip Rivers, and Nick, I like yours actually a lot also this week.
So I'm going to attack the team that just lost their best defensive back, which is the Seattle Seahawks losing Earl Thomas. They faced Jared Goff, who just shredded the Vikings defense, which, well, been kind of questionable this year, should still be better than the Seahawks. And so far, the Seahawks have beaten up against these quarterbacks this year where they haven't been amazing. They've just been okay. Mitch Trubisky, Dak Prescott, Rosen, and I typed Prescott twice, so I forget who the other one was, but it wasn't a good name either. I'm sorry for the lack of prep on this one. Expect a lot of fantasy points, though, out of the Rams this one. They're going to probably try to boat race this game early and put it way out of control, especially missing a defensive player on their side.
Yep.
All right, so who is your running back at the start of the week, Hopper?
My running back start of the week, and this feels even grosser for me, is Aaron Jones. We just talked about how the Packers are potentially missing 2 of their wide receivers, maybe all 3 other wide receivers, definitely potentially 2 of them, and could be in some dire straits. Also, when you look at the matchup, Lions are allowing the 3rd most for fantasy points to running backs. They've allowed a 100-yard rusher in 3 out of the 4 weeks, and a combined 78 yards against the Patriots the other week between Sonny Michel and James White. As for Aaron Jones, he averaged 5.9 yards a carry against Buffalo and had a touchdown on only 11 carries, and Buffalo does not have a terrible run defense, generally speaking. And Rodgers wants him more involved, so when Rodgers speaks up, that normally happens. Usually it's moot, but when he speaks up, that normally happens. And if he's in the 15 to 20 touch range this week, he's going to give you kind of a high-end running back 2 day. So we've kind of been tapping on Packers running backs, but I'm saying go ahead and start Aaron Jones this week.
He's through 2 games that he's been back, he's easily looked like the most efficient runner, so hopefully they start feeding him carries because they need to. On to the dance start of the week at running back. It is Chris Thompson. Couple points in his favor. Game script. This should be a boat race between the Skins and the Saints.
You're a big fan of boat racing.
I am wanting to boat race a lot right now.
What about airplane races? How do you feel about those?
Like Red Bull style?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Drag races?
Just all the races.
NASCAR?
Not. I don't want to go in a circle. All right, so Skins may have to abandon the running game this one, so actually not a big fan of Adrian Peterson this week if you can avoid him, but Chris Thompson should get plenty of passing work, and his average so far this to last season, his average in the games that he has played is 10.6 touches, 81.2 total yards, and that's 7 games where he's had over 10 touches in that stretch, so that's not being inflated by a couple games, and he's got 4 games over 100 yards and 7 over 70, so his floor should be solid, especially in any sort of PPR-type format, and he's going to finish... should be at your worst, kind of a low RB2, and he has RB1 upside every single week. And then my show of the week is a show favorite, James White. The Colts kind of had a good day against the Texans last week where they decided not to run the football. But before that, they had 5 backs who broke 50-plus yards in total volume, which that's a very James White-type stat line plus the PPR, and had 4 that broke over 9 fantasy points in the first 3 weeks before the weird week 4. White's going to see at least 5 receptions this game, probably more. They cut Kenjon Barner. So there's literally only 2 backs left. It's him and Sony Michel. Sony Michel is also almost my start of the week. This should be a game where the Patriots, Vegas expects them to get up early, and it's going to be a situation where both should see a lot of work, and I expect both to see heavy rotations. I've seen more hype from Michel, though, this week, so I'm pushing my chips onto James White to remember, start both your Patriots backs right now. When you get down to 2 of them, you want to start Patriots running backs.
Yep. Colton, to answer your question, Dan, his question, by the way, was, is there anyone on the wire that you would recommend starting over Cole and Lockett? Dan's wide receiver start of the week may be out there, so we'll get to that in just a second. Out of the names you gave, Ryan Grant, Nelson Aguilar, Jamison Crowder, Taywan Taylor, I don't necessarily hate Taywan Taylor. I kind of want to see it another week. I don't know that I like him more than Keelan Cole.
And Grant in full PPR, maybe.
Maybe. Crowder, not really, hasn't done anything. Aguilar is always interesting, but who knows which Minnesota defense is going to show up. So, but we do have one guy that at least was the first guy that came to mind coming up as one of Dan's starts of the week.
All right. And a guy we've kind of done a full 180 on here now that we've seen him established in the offense. Hopper, your start of the week is Calvin Ridley.
Yes, my wide receiver start of the week is Calvin Ridley, and I wasn't really sure how much he was going to get his Mohamed Sanu, but he's a clearly established 2 here. As long as teams are focusing in on Julio, he's going to get all the opportunity. Steelers are second worst in the league against wide receivers fantasy-wise. Opposing wide receiver 2s have been over 50 yards in 3 out of 4 games against them. Ridley's seen 19 targets over the last 3 weeks. He's been over 50 yards in all of them, and logged a touchdown in all of those games, and he's 5th in the league in red zone reception, so I think he's going to have the opportunity. It's going to be a shootout. It's a good matchup, and he's on a hot streak right now. Go ahead and chase those points and start Calvin Ridley.
All right, and the possible waiver wire ad that was mentioned is from Dan, is D.D. Westbrook. Week to week, Jaguars wide receivers can be real tough to figure out, but Westbrook has been the best of the bunch so far. He leads the team in targets, receptions, and yards. Over 14 yards per reception. His catch rate is over 75%. He's the number 1 slot receiver in this offense, and the Chiefs have just been getting burned by slot receivers, including Keenan Allen and Juju Smith-Schuster, had their best games of the year against the Chiefs, running primarily out of the slot. And D.D. Westbrook, I believe, runs about 75-80% of his routes out of the slot.
And he's really fast.
And he is really fast. So definitely like that pick a lot. He was one I was considering and kicking around as well. My start of the week, though, is Tyler Boyd. The Dolphins, who the Bengals are facing this week, have an awesome shutdown corner 1. So this is not the best week to start A.J. Green. However, they're terrible against wide receiver 2s. Average stat line is 7.8 targets, 4.8 receptions, 92 yards, and 0.6 touchdowns. So 3 touchdowns given up to 5 guys who primarily either are the wide receiver 2 or run out of the slot. So that's good for 15.2 fantasy points a game on average, and Boyd has been getting significantly more than 8 targets a game over the last 3 weeks. He's gotten 9+ in all 3. So I think he can exceed those numbers. I have him as a mid to high wide receiver 2 in this particular matchup. I love Tyler Boyd this week.
I love our wide receiver starts of the week this week because there's nobody in there I disagree with.
That always helps, doesn't it?
It does.
And then Hopper, an injury has let you go back to the train.
I had 1 foot off of it, and now I'm right back on it. My tight end start of the week is Nick Vannett with 2 N's and 2 T's. Seattle is averaging 7 targets to the tight end and 55.7 yards a game. Will Dissly's injured. This is the tight end Brandon LaFell rule here because Nick Vannett is literally the last one that they can use. They are targeting the tight end, like I said, about 7 times a game, which is what you want.
And as far as I know, they don't even have another one on the roster right now?
Yeah, I don't think they do. So it's going to be all Vannett all the time. And really, outside of Doug Baldwin and occasionally Tyler Lockett, there's not another great receiving option. You need a third one. So tight ends not named RSJ that were targeted 6 or more times have fared pretty well against the Rams. That would be Kyle Rudolph and Jared Cook. Jared Cook had the absolute blow up in week 1. Kyle Rudolph gave you a day that you were happy with, going for 65 yards, and Russell Wilson targets his tight ends in the red zone, and that's what they're going to be trying for, is to score points. Most teams try for that in NFL games. So,
but especially against the Rams.
Yeah, go ahead and run them out there.
All right, Dan, start of the week. He's going back to the well, and I'm starting to the guy I was hyping up all year, and Calvin Ridley's kind of taking the wind out of my sails.
I've gone to the well in Austin Hooper, I think 2 or 3 times in tight end starts for the first 5 weeks, and I am never going back.
Yep, he is on timeout for me, but Dan wants to go back to Austin Hooper. He goes, well, I'm not the highest on Hooper. His matchup is too good to ignore. Steelers are bottom 5 against tight ends in all categories. They give up the most targets and catches, 4th in yards, and tied for 2nd in total touchdowns allowed. So it's definitely a plus matchup. My issue is that when they get to the red zone, they seem to throw to Calvin Ridley, not to Austin Hooper. But with the tight end pool getting smaller and smaller each week, as he notes here, it's all about playing matchups, and you could definitely do worse than Austin Hooper this week.
So a good week for Austin Hooper is...
Calvin Ridley's going to score 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, a good week for Austin Hooper is 5 targets, 3 receptions, 30 yards.
And you hope for a touchdown.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm going with Jared Cook, which this might be a obvious moment, but he's my tight end 2 this week. They just let the Raiders Chargers just let Kittle go for 6, 125 on 1 and 8 targets against the tight end position here. Cook is currently the number 1 scoring tight end. He's 3rd in targets. My number 2 tight end this week. I think this is an excellent situation for him. They're using him. They're scheming to get him the ball, and he hasn't given you a dud day yet. His worst game in half PPR has been 6 points, which you don't love it, but it's not going to kill you in half-point PPR, especially for how terrible the tight end position has been. Jared Cook, my number 2 tight end this week, and my start of the week. Let's get to sits. We've got 3 of these guys that we're trying to avoid, though I think Dan went too easy on his. Hopper, yours also might not play, so is this just going to insert Vikings running back here?
Yeah. Helps if I turn my microphone on. Yes, this is insert Vikings running back here. Eagles allows the 2nd fewest points in Teehee leagues? What? In the league. Running backs. Philadelphia has yet to allow back over 40 rushing yards. Dion Lewis fared okay in the passing game, but he had 9 targets. No other back has had over 26 receiving yards this year against Philadelphia. Doesn't matter if Cook plays, if Cook doesn't plays. I'm sitting whichever Vikings running back is out there. Best name, Dede, Kiki, or Juju? Juju.
Definitely Juju.
Best DST, Titans, Pats, or Ravens. I love the Titans this week.
I picked up the Titans everywhere.
I tried. I missed out on them in most places.
Probably because we're in the same league in most places, and I bid higher.
Probably.
All right, sit of the week for Dan is Kenyon Drake. And he types, as a Drake truther to start the season, it's been difficult to watch what's happening in Miami. In the last 2 games, Drake only has 14 touches, including a low of 5 this past week. He's averaging 3.2 yards per carry in the season, while only generating an average of 40 yards per game and 26 in his last 2 combined. He's not only on timeout, he's fast approaching droppable per Dan, and one has to wonder if he slept with Gase's wife or something has to be so in the doghouse.
I don't know that it's necessarily in the doghouse. I think you have to perform. And the peripherals are all down.
Yeah, everything's been bad for here. I was an anti-Drake guy, and this has even far been below my modest expectations. So yeah, I agree with him being borderline droppable. He's beyond sit of the week. He should be on full on sit in the corner and don't talk to us until you do something mode.
He's about just flat out go out back, fetch a switch. Well, never mind. That's dark.
I'm just going to go into my sit of the week. My sit of the week is Russell Wilson. This is already a toughest matchup for Wilson. They are going to be missing Aqib Talib, so the Rams defense is not quite as scary as they were before they had Talib on the field, but it's still going to be a tough one for him. And the biggest issue, though, he is not running anymore, which was the entire reason you liked Russell Wilson, is he was a good thrower. On top of it, he was also an elite running quarterback. So the combination of the two made him be a top 4 to 5 finish every single year. Now he's not running. He has 11 attempts this season for 42 combined yards and no touchdowns through 4 games. At this point, it seems like Schottenheimer's like, you're not going to run the football, and that's completely killed Russell Wilson. So Wilson in single quarterback leagues is droppable.
It's weird to say.
That it hurts because I loved Russell Wilson coming into the season because I figured the offensive coordinator wouldn't be so stupid to stop him running the football.
Yeah, we had some really high hopes. I don't know why or how you tell him don't make plays. I mean, that's got to be one of the easiest teams to be an offensive coordinator for. It is Russell Wilson. Go play on the playground.
Yeah, but Wilson, go do some magic. Go do crazy
that's
stuff.
That's what he does. Go do magical things, Wilson. And we've apparently gotten away from that. So
unless he starts being a Mahomes-level passer, it's just not going to be there because he needs to be running the football to make up for the fact that he's not generally a 3-touchdown, 350-yard type passer. And that's kind of what we need right now based on how the NFL's offense has just exploded through the first 4 weeks.
Right. You've got guys that are coming up and producing. Jared Goff is producing better than we expected. Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco, Blake Bortles has had some good matchups coming through this.
Rivers, Mahomes have all overproduced from what we expected.
Roethlisberger's been probably better than we expected. Breeze has bounced back. Luck has been serviceable. So it's just been.
So if he's not rushing to get you that extra, 3 to 10 points a week to kind of bring his floor up, he's just not worth starting.
Right.
So this matchup alone is already worth considering sitting him for, but this is probably sit him until you start to see him run the football.
Yep.
All right, let's preview Thursday night. Actually, beer review. Then we'll preview Thursday night.
Let's do that. Yeah, we haven't done one of those yet. Also, this is what we in the industry call buying time because my hands are full.
Beer review.
All right, since I only have one person to ask right now, what do you think about Autumnal Fire?
I like it a lot. It's a sweeter beer. Definitely got some malty roastedness to it. It's almost got like almost a brown sugar type of taste to it. It's very fall, but it's very pleasant.
It's got a little bit of just a mild spice burn throughout, but it's got a lot of sweetness up front. I'm a big fan of Doppelbocks and quads and this type of stuff, but they're not nearly as common as IPAs, which is too bad because I really like them.
I do too.
But unfortunately, we just don't have as many options to get for these particular types, especially when we're trying to rotate breweries so often. But it's nice to get one of these on here. I fucking love it. I would love to drink some more of these. So Capital Brewing, very well done. And just all brewers out there, if any of you happen to be listening right now, more of these kind of different styles. Not everything has to be an ale or an IPA. I love brown ales. I love reds. I love Doppelbocks. I love quads.
I like golden ales. But not everything has to be a dry hopped or hazy.
Yeah,
ale.
And I love New England style IPAs. I'm a big fan of them, but
they just
variety's the spice of life.
It was weird. It was like M43 launched, and we're like, all right, cool, something unique. This is awesome. Then all of a sudden, everybody has a New England IPA.
Yep.
Copycat league.
Yeah, it is very much a copycat league, just like the NFL. All right, let's preview Thursday night.
Weekly preview.
All right, so it is Colts at the Patriots kicking off in about 22 minutes here. Patriots are favored by 10. It's a 51.5 point over-under when I checked this on Wednesday. Starting with the Colts, if you throw out Tannehill's awful Week 4 game, quarterbacks have actually done pretty well against the Patriots, averaging 21.3 fantasy points per game, including a 33.6 game from Bortles. I don't love Luck's weapons, but he should need to throw a ton here. Vegas is expecting him to get down early in this game, so volume stats alone may save Luck in this one. He's a mid-quarterback too based on my rankings. I'm assuming you probably feel similarly on that.
I do.
Hines is the only startable running back, though, at this point. He's had 5+ targets in 3 of the 4 matchups. There's no Hilton, no Doyle. So he's going to get some carries, but he's going to be heavily involved on the pass-catching side of it. Wilkins, Mack, and Turbin on the bench till further notice because Turbin is active tonight for some reason.
Oh, yay. But no, I like Nyheim Hines the most at any of these backs. Also, he is an RB2 for me this week.
Yep. Then when you get to the wide receivers, where it's Grant, Rodgers, and Pascal sharing the load, but who knows how this is going to shake out without Hilton there, without Doyle. If I'm guessing on one, my money's on Grant. I prefer him in a full point PPR league. I got him as a wide receiver 4, though, so you're probably not starting him unless you're desperate due to bye weeks. Maybe you were running out a stack of the Tampa Bay wide receivers. You had Robinson, Evans, something similar to that. And then Rodgers and Pascal are kind of wide receiver 5 options at best. You're just hoping for some volume to go their way to inflate their day. On the flip side, love Ebron this week. He's had 10-plus targets in the last 2 games. Just with that volume alone, he's our tight end 8. And then on top of it, it's a type of game where they're going to have to be scoring, and he is, as we mentioned before, far and away the number 1 weapon for them in the red zone.
Yeah, and right now he might be the number 1 weapon for them in general.
Yeah,
without T.Y. Hilton.
It's him and Hines at this point.
Right.
Onto the Patriots side, you probably have to start Brady if you have him. My note originally said with Gronk likely to miss time. That's not true. Gronk is active tonight, though he is gimpy. Edelman is getting back. So I don't love him this matchup, but I like him. Colts have been a below average quarterback performance in 3 out of 4 matchups. So the only one that blew up against him was last week in the shootout against the Texans.
Right.
So Watson had a great game. The 3 games before that, not so much. But before last week, running backs absolutely killed the Colts. So I love White and Michelle. White was my start of the week. Michelle is getting hype everywhere. Between the 2 of them should be plenty of volume around. I'm very comfortable starting both, just not in your flex spot. The only receiver I want to start is Julian Edelman. Don't trust Hogan just for what he's done all year. I don't trust Gordon to get the snaps and the volume we're looking for quite yet. But out of the slot, QT just went for 11 and 109. So Edelman can definitely attack there. He's Brady's security blanket. If you're going to start him, you held him for 4 weeks, so might as well roll him out now.
Oh, I am.
Okay. You lost Hilton, though, right?
Or
the leagues?
Different league.
Okay. And then originally it was how Gronk wasn't playing. I was interested in Dwayne Allen, but Gronk is playing. So even if he's gimpy, you're starting Rob Gronkowski unless you happen to own Ertz and Kelsey too. In which case, you need to quit your Dynasty League and find a new one. All right. That's all I got for the matchup. Anything else you want to add?
Nope, I've really got nothing on this matchup. Just remember that the Colts are not your start everybody blow up defense like they were last year, that they've been relatively decent. So
no, I would, even though it's a 50-point over-under, that seems a little high for me, and I'm a little more cautious on people outside of the running game for the Patriots.
Especially T.Y. Hilton.
For preview for the rest of the week, Friday we'll preview the 14 remaining games. Reminder that the Bears and the Buccaneers are on bye this week, so get them out of your lineup. And then Sunday will be live, 10:30 in the morning here, though it'll be in a different location of the house. Subscribe to beerfieldfantasy.com so you can jump on, ask all your questions with us.
Beerfieldfantasy.com. We launched?
We launched? Cool. Sorry, Beerfield Fantasy Football. I wish we launched.
Beerfieldfantasy.com. Summit coming soon. TM. It's kind of the joke here. It's done, and it's been done for 2 years. We just haven't launched it yet.
It's been done. There's still other things we have to do to it. The framework's there.
A year. It's been done for a year.
We could post it and barely use it.
Right. We just don't want to do that.
So if you want to follow us on Twitter, BeerfieldFF, that's also where you can find our beer reviews on Untappd and our can art on Instagram. I'll make sure to get that out, even though Dan wasn't here tonight. Individually, Dan Thury is ThuryBFF. You can follow him on Twitter. We got Christopher Hopper to my right.
At HotBFF with 2 Ps.
I'm at Nick Sparts. Thank you for joining us for the abridged episode. Sorry it was on Thursday night. Trees fall. Shit happens. We will catch.
Life is a thing.
Life is a thing. And we'll catch you guys next time on Beerfield Fantasy Football. See you tomorrow.
See ya.